Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special impromptu edition of Ruin Hammer Live, going live on YouTube and Facebook tonight for the first time this season. Bit of news dropped today. Joining me tonight to chat about that is a couple of guys. We've got my good mate Rob Tuivasa-Anderson, Brad Tuivasa-Inga, and Richie Tuivasa-Sterling down there in the bottom corner. Rob, your mic's still on mute, mate, if you want to turn it on. Just to talk about the news that dropped a couple of hours ago, actually. Warrior 203, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, our former captain, Warriors former Dahlia medalist of 2018, re-signing for the Warriors from 2024 onwards for 3 seasons. Boys, welcome to this special edition. I'll start with you first, Rob. Kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? The announcement of this.
Absolutely came out of nowhere. I got tipped off about an hour before it happened. I got a phone call from my mate Tim, and he goes, "Oh, something big brewing. What's going on?" And I said, "I don't know. I think you're telling the story here," because I had no idea. And he said, Warriors are going to make an announcement at 7 p.m., which I assume is New Zealand time. And he goes, and automatically I thought, it's probably Sean Johnson extending his contract. And right away. But then I was like, I better go have a look. There might be something floating around social. So I jumped on the forums, and 3 letters kept popping up. RTS. I went and did the usual news search, couldn't find anything. And then all of a sudden it just gathered momentum at about 4:30 p.m. over here. And it was one of those things we're all sort of saying. We predicted it in our preseason show, but I think it was one of those things that we would have loved to have happened. But I know for me personally, in my heart of hearts, I don't know if I actually believed it was going to happen. But lo and behold, the news came out. It was pretty hard to, once the story gathered momentum, it was kind of everywhere. And the man himself even confirmed it just before the 7 p.m. time slot. But mate, I'm absolutely overjoyed. He's one of the best players ever to pull on a Warriors jersey. He was the heart and soul of the club for all those years. He did it tough over COVID, but he stayed solid and loyal to the team. And over that 2020 season, he was the only guy who didn't have his family over here. But I couldn't be happier with the news. The biggest question, though, as I think we're all going to discuss, is where does he fit into this team in 2024? That is.
I'll throw to Brad now, because Brad lives in Auckland. He's got his ear to the ground over there, obviously. But there was no whispers of this happening. As Rob said, I think myself and Rob and Richie all predicted in our predictions this year that RTS had re-signed for the NRL. We didn't necessarily say the Warriors. But there was talk a couple of weeks ago where any talk of Roger coming back to the NRL was shut down because they were all speculating Japanese rugby. Kind of caught you off guard as well today, mate, with this announcement of RTS coming back?
Yeah, I, a bit like Rob, I'm in a few chats on Twitter and things like that, and there were some rumors coming up. For us, it was, I'd say, just after 5 o'clock, so like 2 hours before the announcement. But yeah, like we were saying before we jumped on, it was all about him going to Japanese rugby, and Richie and I said it on our show probably 3 or 4 weeks ago that's basically what it was. He was going rugby union in Japan. It's like 4 months of work for, more money than you can imagine. But yeah, surprising news. It's good. It's a good surprise though. And I did go back on the predictions. You 3 did. I was the only one who didn't. So it is what it is. But yeah,
that's all right, mate. You can't get them all right. Richie, hearing that down in Wellington, mate. Are you still in Wellington, or you?
Yeah.
You're down in Wellington. Yeah, because I knew you were in Napier for a little while there, or travelling around the country as the Warriors ambassador to the rest of New Zealand. How did the news strike you, mate? Pretty exciting stuff, isn't it?
Oh, extremely exciting. I was just on Facebook. But the kind of start we've had to the year. I've been navigating lots of different NRL pages, feeling 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Yes.
So I had to take a wee break from trolling other NRL fan bases and
Broncos.
Yeah. And I had to get all over this, and then obviously everyone's got the puzzle pieces out, trying to fit them into the back line. So, yeah, fun begin.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Like, I mean, we've got a lot of footy. It's only round 7 of 2023, or round 8, sorry, of 2023. We've got a lot of footy to play before, Roger steps foot back into Mount Smart for the preseason and then into next season. And he's got his rugby union career with the Blues to continue. When we were discussing this earlier in the open chat that the four of us have together, where we discuss everything, I actually said that I didn't think this was going to be the news because it kind of kiboshes his whole wanting to play for the All Blacks. Does this kind of put that in jeopardy now? Is he kind of succumbed to the fact that he's not going to get picked for the All Blacks for the Rugby World Cup, and this is him just moving forward, getting all his ducks in a row ready for past that? What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, Richie, you go first. You're the rugby union idiot here.
Yeah, well, it's not very nice, Brad. Probably out of the four of us, I would consume the most union. I just think there's too many people above him in the pecking order when it comes to the All Blacks. You know, it's a hard team to crack, and there's so many quality union players. I was just saying to Rob before we came on, it just doesn't look like, when I watch him play union, he doesn't look like he belongs. He goes well enough, but he looks like he belongs back in the NRL. So from that standpoint, I'm very happy. I think he'd be pushing it to make the World Cup All Black squad.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think his biggest problem, I just want to stick the knife into Richie again. He went to the wrong rugby team. He went to the Blues. If he had been with my Chiefs, he'd be an All Black every day.
Hang on a minute. But did the Blues win the comp last year? Were the Blues?
Nah, the Crusaders did.
Oh, okay. All right. Blues are up there, though.
Yeah, they win. They win it every now and then, don't they, the Crusaders?
Yeah, every now and
then. But yeah, there's just too much competition in that midfield where he's trying to get in. And I think, he's probably already had a tap on the shoulder.
Yep.
I think being told like basically the World Cup, and unless, half the team get hit by a car or something, you're probably not going to be in our conversation. So, yeah.
The Super Rugby season, when does that wrap up? That finishes a lot earlier than the NRL, doesn't it?
Yeah, is it just around July, August? I think it's definitely a little bit earlier than the NRL, because then they go into the Rugby Championship, internationals, and all that kind of stuff, and then the World Cup a couple months after that.
Could you see Roger making the jump earlier than the 2024 season, coming across at the end of his tenure with the Auckland Blues, and maybe if the Warriors are in contention for semi-final football, coming over before because it's now an August deadline, isn't it? It used to be June 30, but now it's an August deadline, isn't it? For the
you get high mercenaries now. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's contracted for the next 3 years after this season, is there a chance that we may see him in a Warriors jersey at the back end of the year? Your thoughts on that, Brad?
Never say never. Anything's possible, really, when it comes to the NRL nowadays. If he's done his responsibilities with the Blues, they're not going to bother using him for internationals or anything, and he's free to go. They might decide to throw him in there. We've got space.
Yeah.
Because what are we 28 players still? Or are we up to 29? Or
I think we're at 28. I think we're at 28.
So there's 2 spots. Never say never.
I think one of them needs to be a front rower. We definitely need another front rower, and whether that's a guy like Zion Mayu or one of those boys coming through in our on a development contract, whether they keep one of those spots available for them. But yeah, I could see if his contracts at the Blues his responsibilities at the Blues have expired, because a lot of fans are a little bit salty about Roger when he left. He did leave relatively early. He did leave right in the middle of a COVID pandemic. He did get out of Queensland and get back to New Zealand. And then there was
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of salty
Well,
people because
wrong
when he
time.
got back to New Zealand, he couldn't play anyway because the competition over there shut down. So there was a lot of people suggesting that he maybe should have stayed a little bit longer for the Warriors. If he had stayed, could we have made the 8 that year? So, yeah, there's a possibility he could end up playing with us. Rob, there's a lot of talk. Everyone's putting in their best Warriors 17 for 2024. And like I said, we've got a lot of footy to get through.
We got so much to do before then. Yeah, exactly.
But
everyone's forgetting
hypothetically,
about 23.
hypothetically, the fact that he's played his rugby career in the centres, do you see Roger maybe foregoing the fullback role in the NRL and moving into the centres for the Warriors next season?
The way Chance is going at the moment, and if he continues that form, yeah, I'd be putting RTS in the centres. It's been a problem position for us for a long time. He's got all the skills and attributes that are required to make a outstanding NRL centre. I don't know that he has ever played centre in the NRL, but I think he would be outstanding in that position, depending on what happens with our centre stocks between now and then. I mean, Pompey's off contract at the end of the year. So we don't know what's going to happen there. Billy Army I think he might have had 2 years on his contract. Valia's signed 3, does he? Okay.
Yep.
Well, Valia's signed long term. We don't know what's happening with Rocco Berry. These guys, and him and Valia, probably need a little bit more time to sort of work on their game and reserves. So, mate, I'll be putting RTS in the centres next year, and pretty handy fullback backup as well, should there be injuries. And we seem to be building pretty good depth at the moment. So centre for mine.
Yeah, how about you, Brad? I know you'd like to see him probably play front row.
Front row, yeah, 100%.
because of his meters. But would you agree with Rob that centre's probably his ideal position in the current Warriors squad that we've got now?
Yeah, if Webster came out tomorrow with a team list and had RTS at fullback, CNK at centre, or the other way around, I wouldn't blink twice. I think, CNK's comfortable at fullback right now, so keep him there. But yeah, I think you're going to see one or the other, to be honest. It's just they'll both be in fullback centre. It's just which one will be which. I think it probably will mean that either Montoya or Pompey are let go. They're the 2 off contract this year in the centres. With Roger back, I don't see them keeping both. I know who I would keep out of the 2. But yeah, it depends on that, or they might sign everyone. And it's probably already cemented the announcement in a couple of weeks that SJ's staying on. I don't see Sean retiring, because he kind of had those jokes saying he wanted to have another go with RTS, and just as he'd come back to the Warriors, RTS was leaving.
Just left. Yep.
So I think, he'll probably sign on again.
I think so too. What about you, Richie? Think SJ will sign on now with Roger coming back to the club, and we get to see that combination that we all were hoping to see when Sean did re-sign with the Warriors?
Yeah, for sure. Brad, I didn't like hearing you say that Montoya could possibly go.
We don't. The Warriors coaching staff seem to have a bigger affinity with Adam Pompey than a lot of us do. That's why I had to throw it out there, because I've seen comments. I would be letting Pompey go, but they seem to love him a lot more than I do.
I'm just going to pretend you didn't say it. I'd love to see that combo, SJ and RTS. I think I would. I really wouldn't want to break up the good thing we've got going at the moment with CNK at fullback. So I'm a lot like you guys. I think centre could be a good spot for him. Maybe turn him into a bit of a roaming centre like we see with Tommy Turbo in Origin. That could be quite effective for us.
Yeah, good point.
The Wobbling Sports Channel, our mate Sam Revel, he says, will you guys be lenient and patient as RTS makes his way back into the groove, or will you all expect him to hit the ground running? I'll throw to any of you boys. Rob, what do you reckon?
Oh, look, he's an ultimate professional. I expect him to hit the ground running. I'll give him a game or 2, but RTS is RTS, and I think he won't skip a beat. He'll be back. He may not necessarily be back at fullback, But yeah, he'll have the whole preseason to get himself back into his groove. So yeah, I don't feel we'll need to be patient with him.
Yeah, he's an ultimate professional, isn't he? You know, he's. I don't think we'll need to be patient. I think if we was moving back to fullback, we'd have to have a little bit of patience. It's such a specialist role, and the involvement that you'd want. But I think Roger moving into the centres, he's got all the attributes to make himself a good centre. Defensively, he's very good. He's got good footwork on him. He's got a good passing game. So yeah, I think he's going to be massive for us coming back and moving into the centres. Yeah, it's been a massive bit of news, and we all just wanted to jump on and kind of give it the respect that it deserves as one of our favourite all-time Warriors players, and probably the best fullback that the club has ever had. Our only Dally M medalist, Golden Boot winner in 2019, returns to Mount Smart Stadium, and it's a place where he hasn't played footy for a long, long time because Roger was instrumental in how he carried our side in two of those seasons that we were based over here in Australia during COVID. Spent a long time away from his family. Had a really a big team first, self second mentality. That can only be good coming back to the club, and he's going to teach. Be an invaluable piece of inspiration and a good teacher to a lot of these young guys we got coming through, especially guys like Tane Tuipiki and so forth. We saw the impact that he had on a young Reece Walsh.
Yeah, correct.
And again, unselfishly gave away his position for Walsh to play the position that he wanted to play. It's great. Any final words, boys, from you guys about Roger coming back? Anything you'd like to throw out there?
No, not really. Just great to see him come back. I didn't want to see him wearing another NRL jersey. I'd rather him stay in the rah-rah instead of being with the Roosters again or whoever it was. Well,
that's the thing. There was a lot of rumours early on this season about him coming back and playing for the Roosters, and there was a lot of talk about that. And we had this discussion that he moved his family back to New Zealand for a reason, and we couldn't see him signing like a mercenary short-term deal to come back to Australia and be away from his family or relocate his family again. And we all said that this was probably the landing spot that he was going to come to. The club did that. They did a massive job in keeping it quiet, but also bringing him back. Hats off to Mark Robinson, Cameron George, Andrew McFadden, who's now head of the development and retention and our signings, and of course Webster, who did work a little bit with RTS back in 2016 in Webster's second year as assistant coach. Yep. So I did read a comment from Webby that he's really looking forward to getting his hands on RTS, getting him into that squad and how he's going to be. And with the way that Webby's developed our squad this season, you add RTS into the mix, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it here, because when we do 24 predictions for 2024 next year, my number one prediction is going to be RTS at the Warriors. I think that completes our squad, and the Warriors to win the comp in 2024.
Oh, I like that.
Listen, he was sold the dream by Jim Doyle when he initially signed with the club. He said, you could win another premiership at the Roosters and you'd just sort of be another player there. If you win a premiership at the Warriors, no, you will forever be a legend in the whole country of New Zealand. And that's what lured him over to the Warriors. And look, we all thought that kind of dream might have been over, but perfect time to fulfill that from 2024 to 2026. So how exciting! It's just awesome news.
Doesn't matter. We're going to win it this year anyway.
It was
dynasty.
It was one thing about SJ too. SJ always wanted to be involved in the first premiership that the Warriors won, and that's why I think he'll re-sign. He's having the season of his career so far anyway. So I think he'll re-sign. We get RTS back. We've got Tohu there. That's a question that probably needs a little bit of discussion too. Because Tohu's a reluctant captain. Would RTS come back in and be in the mix to be captain again? Would Tohu be the kind of player to relinquish that? Because Tohu kind of reminds me a little bit of Simon Mannering, who's the captain that takes the role because, like, obviously he's the best person for it, but he didn't really want it. And Mannering was quick to relinquish that to Ryan Hoffman when Ryan Hoffman came to the club. Do you see Tohu maybe relinquishing the captaincy back to RTS next season, or are we talking a bit too early at the moment?
I'm not sure, because there were interviews this year where Tohu kind of changed his mind and said he really wanted to be captain, but he wanted to earn it.
Yes.
So he's not the type of guy that's going to throw his toys if they're like, no, we would think Roger's the better thing. He'll go with it, but I think he does relish being the captain now, compared to what he was last year. But it probably also helps that they're winning.
Yes.
I think Simon would have been a happier captain if they were a bit more successful in his time too.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah. He did captain the club in one of the darkest periods of club history, didn't he? Poor old Simon. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that just about wraps it up for tonight. As I said, we just wanted to get on here, have a bit of a chat, invite you guys in to hear our thoughts and opinions on what is arguably the greatest news in Warriors signings for a long, long time. All the talk's been about Jack Whiten and the Rabbitohs, and this kind of just came out of left field. I did comment on a post today where someone was commenting about the Jack Whiten thing, and I said, who gives a shit? RTS is re-signed for the Wars. That's bigger news than anything. Want to thank you boys for jumping on. I know it's late over there, and you're probably getting ready to watch. What's the game tonight? South and Penrith, isn't it?
Big Penrith.
Yeah,
big game.
Big game to follow. But yeah, thanks very much, boys, for jumping on at such short notice to chat about this. Hope everyone has a safe weekend and go the Wars on Tuesday in that game against the Melbourne Storm, the traditional Anzac Dome clash. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Gee, that live stays on for a long time.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
All right, so we're still on.
We are still on.
You guys got anything else to talk about?
No.
Oh, fuck, eh? Why is it not turning off, Rob?